Welcome, everybody, to the One to Go show presented by Dirt Track Supply from a blizzard in northern Minnesota. It is Puka. It is Ryan Aho. It is Bert Lehman. Yeah, it's a whiteout here right now, guys. But it's not sticking on the ground. But Merry Christmas from northern Minnesota, boys.
I got to be honest, that's depressing, right? We're here to speak positivity, not to be negative. Don't be talking about that white crap. We don't want to have any of that.
Well, we do have snow flurries where I live also, so it's not a whiteout, but we have some snow flurries.
Well, our late model expert, Jeff, he sent me over a picture, and they do have snow, and it is sticking to the ground up in the UP. So he's like, welcome to hell. I'm like, I got to be honest with you. Like Arizona, Florida, all that stuff sounds really, really good right now. I'm in Illinois. There's no snow here. It's a little chilly, but there's no snow. So, guys, episode 104, right? 52 times 2, where I come from, 104. That is officially 2 years in the books. Congratulations. Pretty cool. Kind of a fun milestone, and we've been talking about numbers. Let's go with it. Who do you guys have for a number 104?
I do not have a 104.
I do not have a 104 either. I have a couple of 4s, but no 104. How about you?
Man,
you got a 104?
I feel like an absolute overachiever. Okay. So, 2020 National Dirt Late Model Hall of Fame inductee. 104, but there's a dash in the number. 10 for T.J. Poshert. He actually raced at the USA Nationals. I got a picture of his car from back at Cedar Lake. So T.J. Poshert in the National Dirt Late Model Hall of Fame. Don't know a lot about the guy. I do have a picture to post up here, of course, but I remember that name, and I'm like, I think Tommy John Poshert is his name. But yeah, 2020 Hall of Fame inductee to the National Dirt Late Model Hall of Fame. And you guys are supposed to be the late model guys, right?
Well, speaking of this, now that you say that, is Tad Poskapol? Is he like 04?
He might be.
Tad. Let me look here.
You're going to have to take a look at that one. So that's number 1. Number 2 is a modified guy. He currently sits 4th all-time in feature wins at the Rice Lake Speedway with modified wins at 29 wins, Buddy Mila in the 104. So there's a couple of the Milas that raced over in Rice Lake. I raced a little bit against them, maybe a couple times. That's about it. I remember seeing that name, seeing the cars, because there was a 104 and a 204. I think Dave, I'm not sure if they were brothers. Somebody can post in the comments here if they know more about either one of these guys. But I know that was brothers, father, son. Not sure what that was. But Buddy and Dave Mila, 104 and 204 over in Wisconsin. Now, do either of you have an 04?
I do not have an 04.
I got Tad. I just looked him up. He is 04.
All right. Hey, good catch on that one.
That's possible.
So there we go. I have a guy that I raced against in the Super Stocks down at the Cedar Lake Speedway, Kevin Ayotte, and as the Grand Rapids announcer would say, Kevin Ayotte, which it's not Kevin Ayotte. It's not Wile E. Coyote Kevin Ayotte. It's Kevin Ayotte, who, incidentally, he's got 2 boys that race. One in the Midwest Mods, that would be Nick, and one in the modified division, that would be Adam. So 3 Ayottes, of course, racing, and he was kind of the godfather of that all down from the Twin Cities area. And we have a bunch of number 4s. And Bert, we'll go ahead and start with you. I know you have at least one number 4. Who do you got?
Yeah, there's a lot of number 4s, but I'll go with this one. Gordy Siegert, former late model driver from Oostburg, Wisconsin, which is down near Milwaukee. For much of the, I would say from the mid 1990s until he retired somewhere in the 2000s, he would travel from Oostburg up to Anigo every Friday night. Then they'd stay overnight. Then they'd go to Shawano Speedway and race at Shawano Speedway. And then, so a lot of traveling, but he made the trek every week. He won the track championship at Shawano Speedway in the late model division at least one time. And so that's my number 4.
Awesome. Puka, who do you got?
Well, Terry Lamphere was a number 4, wasn't he? That's a guy.
He had a sweet looking car always, kind of that Corvette body. He had a pretty cool look, and Yeah,
Black, always black, right?
No, he was red, like a candy apple red.
Oh, yeah.
And then he switched to black. I remember him coming up many times, and then up at the Riverview Raceway as well. So good old Terry Lampier himself.
I got one more for you to remember. Unfortunately, gone too soon. Todd Eliason in the Jubilee Foods car, late model.
Absolutely. The Eliason family, of course, they've been around racing forever. Of course, you had Gordy Eliason and Jimmy Eliason and Todd and Troy and Chase Eliason, who we actually did interview. He's down with the Hendricks team down there. So that's a big legacy right there, that Eliason name. I have a couple here, quick ones, and then I have one that I cannot believe. Like, man, you must be in full-out hockey, but I'm so disappointed in you. I don't know. I'm disappointed you didn't have TJ Posher. You're the self-proclaimed late model guy. You're wearing a freaking Cowboys hat after they just beat my Vikings last night. Bert, I'm just going to turn your screen off. A little disappointed here. I don't even know where to go, right? So, Ernie Ukrainic, he's a modified guy. He's from up in Thunder Bay. He ran back in, he's been down to Hibbing a few times. And Dave Snow, you remember that name, Puka? He had some stints over at the Labor Day Shootout. From Zimmerman, he ran a super stock, transitioned to a late model, had a modified for a little while back in the 80s. So he was a Princeton car. He was up at Hibbing. A guy that I raced against, gone too soon as well, Al Kaminke. He was a number 4, and then he was also a Century 21. But he ran a super stock over in Proctor and Superior. And then the one that I am just flabbergasted that you don't have. I am just absolutely dumbfounded, right? Inaugural member of the Hibbing Raceway Hall of Fame, the 1984 late model Labor Day Shootout feature winner, the godfather of Kelly Lake Racing.
All I remember is Terzic number 1.
That wasn't even a number 1.
No,
Bobby G. Bobby G. Girardi was number 4 forever. And then he was 0.
It was 0.
Then he was 0. Puka.
0.
Puka.
You think I'm going to ask him when I see him next?
You are like, I'm going to get a hold of Girardi, and we're going to go over to Provenzino's shop. I'm going to get Girardi over there. He's I tell you what, he's a Kelly Laker. He's not afraid to throw down, right?
He's going to make me want to smoke one of those rolled cigarettes he makes.
Unbelievable that you cannot remember Bobby G. Bobby G was he was the Hibbing Raceway in the early. I believe he was on the initial board for the Iron Range Racing Association as well. Still goes to the races, of course, heavily involved. Man, that guy won a ton, and it was a big deal back in the day. There's a video. Lem had it, and he won the Labor Day Shootout. I mean, the place went bonkers, and they had the pits in the infield, and they were all out on the track. But Bobby G, the godfather of Kelly Lake Racing, I tell you, he's the number 4. When I think number 4, that's what comes to mind. So, of course, this episode, guys, brought to you by our friends over at Dirt Track Supply. Trevor and Ron over there in Watertown, South Dakota. This is the time of year to be getting with those guys to not only get repairs done. If you need a new chassis, of course, they build the Aero chassis, and they do it in several classes, whether it's street stock, supers, Midwest mods, modifieds, you name it. They'll build it, and if you already have a car of a different brand, if you need tin work done, bumpers, you need parts, you need whatever, get a hold of them guys. They service a lot of areas, and they service all around the country. They will ship to you. So, speaking of Bobby Girardi, okay, little fan trivia. Okay, everybody put their thinking caps on. So Bob Girardi, he was the first actual Hibbing local, weekly racer to win the late model feature at the Labor Day Shootout. And you remember growing up, Puka, let's be honest. I mean, them Cedar Lake guys come up and they give him an ass whooping, right? Rick Eggers.
And the Iowa guys back then, too.
The who?
The Iowa guys even back.
Yep. So literally our Hibbing guys forever is like, well, they ain't going to win. Like, which out-of-towner is going to win? Is it going to be Nesbitt from Thunder Bay? Kreiderman? Is it going to be Eggersdorf? Steve Larson?
Pete Parker?
Yep. Brueggemann? Jeff Hinkemeyer, and when a local guy won the late model feature, it was a big deal. It was a big deal. Now, looking at this list, there's 8 other drivers locally that ran weekly at the Hibbing Raceway that have won Labor Day Shootouts in the late model division. Okay? Now, fans, and we'll talk about this next week on the show. We'll kind of give our stats here. But fans, put right down the drivers in the comments below who those are. And Puka, what do you say? We do something a little different here. We'll put them in the hat, right? Anybody that comments, anybody that gets it right, we'll give them a shirt. How's that sound?
Give them a shirt. Perfect. Christmas is coming.
Christmas is coming. So you got to get all 8 of them right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yep, there's 8 of them here. Now,
late models only.
Jeff Hinkemeyer does not count because some people might put Jeff Hinkemeyer because he did race weekly at Hibbing in 1981 when he won that. So technically you could count him there as well, but we're not counting him. Bob Girardi, we're not counting because we already mentioned him, but not Girardi, not Hinkemeyer. Who are the other 8? Put them in the comments below. We'll see if somebody can get that right. So what do you say we get to the national scene here? Not a ton of racing, right? There was a few races, but we're not going to talk about all of them, right? Because I don't even know half the people racing at most of them. No offense to anybody, right? But the National 100 is one of them that we all picked. And did you guys get a chance to watch the feature down there at East Alabama?
I did watch the feature down there.
How long did it officially take you to do that?
Well, I tuned in, and it took them forever just to line up the cars for the race. I kept going back to flow, and there's cars on the front stretch. Then I'd watch football. I'd go back to the race, and there's still just cars sitting on the front stretch.
It was almost a 2-hour intermission. It was ridiculous. I mean, it rubbered up. They had to farm it, but I'm like, it took forever. And then they brought them out, did auto-car introductions, which I liked, but not after a 2-hour intermission. I think they must be a lot more patient than Puka.
And then, I mean, watching it, there were several cautions, and the caution periods were just brutally long. I mean, they do lap after lap and then changing tires, and then they'd get ready to start. And then another car would have a flat tire. So then they'd wait for that driver, and it was just brutal. And I mean, to put it in perspective, how long these cautions were, at one point during one of the cautions, I went down, switched the loads of laundry, carried a basket upstairs, and folded an entire load of laundry, and they still hadn't gone green racing yet.
So what do you say, Bert? Let's start a GoFundMe, right? And what we'll do with that money is we'll pay for Puka's airfare and tickets to go to next year's event. Because, I mean, they had like 87 classes. They started at like 11 a.m. They got done at God knows what time. I mean, it was like a full 2 days of racing. I know Puka would thoroughly enjoy that. What do you say we get together, make that happen?
Man, did it really start? Was it an all-day affair?
It was a 2-day all-day affair. So yeah, it was a ton.
Oh.
And now here's the deal. So big, sexy Brandon Overton, he got it done. But first of all, it was a 100-lap race. 100-lap race for $20,000. Whatever, it is what it is. Early on in that race, the Magic Man, Mark Whitener, drove by him like the shit was broke. Like, I'm like, Overton, I don't know. So I texted my buddy Krause. I said, how many laps is this? He's like, it's 100. I'm like, all right. And he's like, he ain't going to last because Whitener was on the pump. If that was a 40-lap feature, he wins that race. I mean, he was legitimately a rocket ship early, but Brandon Overton was just too smooth, and he just drove by him and kind of made him pay $858,000 he's at right now in earnings. Okay. So before we get into my question here, I have for you guys, anything else stick out to you, Bert, on that race?
Not really. I mean, it was a pretty uneventful race. I mean, Overton won. Dennis Erb Jr. was second. I can't remember who was third. I think Whitner wound up finishing fifth. But 100 laps was probably too many. But I mean, because especially the last half of the race was really uneventful. So.
Absolutely. So the question I have, okay, so we got this weekend, you have, and I'm pretty sure he's going, but I'm not positive, but you have the prelude, right, to the World Finals, and then you got 2 nights of the World Finals. So there's a possible $27,500 that he can win this week if he sweeps a week. Now, next week, I'm assuming that he's going to Vegas. In fact,
he's going to Vegas.
He's announced that he's going there. And it's $25,000 for the first show and then it's 50,000 for the second one. But being that he's been at all of them, he's racing for 100,000 to win in that second one. If he wins 100,000 in that one, right now as it sits, he's only 42,000 shy of the million mark. Okay, so my question is: he going to win Vegas?
I would say he's the favorite to win Vegas. It's, you know, it's really going to be interesting to see who ends up out there, you know, because it's so far, you know, I mean, and there's not a lot of local stuff, you know. What are you going to get out of California? Just a little bit. Wouldn't it be something if, who's the Xfinity driver that's from California that used to race late models, Bert, the young kid? He came to Cedar Lake in that Bloomquist car.
Reddick?
Yeah, Tyler, what if he just showed up, you know, out of California or something? But I would say he's the hands down favorite. What do you guys think?
I would agree that he's the favorite. Because like you said, I don't know what drivers are going to be there. And especially after the Texas fiasco with this same group that's promoting the event. I mean, I'm not saying that it's going to be like that. Hopefully they learn from that event. But that may steer some drivers away from attending the event since it's so far away. But I mean, if I had to pick a winner, I would go with Overton right now to win that.
It looks like I saw on the XR on their Facebook page, they have a handful of guys going. It looks like you'll have to look it up. It's on there. I don't have it right in front of me, but there's a handful of pretty quality cars going, more than what was going to be at, or more than what was at Texas. So there's a pretty decent field. So it'll be interesting to see how many cars. Plus, remember Sonoya, they got the Peach. What is it? The Peach State Classic. And that's right. 50 grand to win. So maybe people down in that area, they look at it, maybe they stay there. So it'll be interesting. Now, here's another question for you guys. Now, I don't know how he thinks. The kid seems so incredibly humble, right? He seems not high highs, not low lows. He seems pretty grounded. But I guarantee there's people chirping in his ear about, man, you could hit a million, you could hit a million. Do you think that even though he's got 3 races this weekend, do you think there's a part of him maybe looking ahead going, man, I can make 100 grand and I can make it happen? Or do you think he's laser focused on the task at hand for each individual race for what it is? Would it be hard to be kind of not looking ahead to that?
That's a good question. I think he's taking it race by race. I mean, he is. I mean, he's. How do you argue with the year he's had? You know, and I think, but yeah, like you said, there's got to be people chirping. But yeah, he's got a big weekend close to home with Cherokee and Charlotte, and then he can worry about that next week. And you know, he might be one of those guys that, you know, it's a desert in Las Vegas, but maybe he's hoping for rain there so he can stay close to home and go right to Sonoya. 10,000 Friday, 52,000 Saturday. A lot easier deal for him. I don't know. What do you think?
Right.
Well, my question is: he going to the Prelude this week? It's not on his schedule.
You know, he's one of them guys where he just randomly shows up. He usually just has the bigger stuff on there, and then he puts the results on there. But there's been a ton of races throughout the season that I've been kind of following them that they're not on his schedule. Okay. It's like, damn, he's there. So
I mean, because we're so close with our picks, I spent like a half hour to an hour looking at driver schedules, and there's hardly any late model drivers that have the Prelude on their schedule. So I don't know if it's just such a small race that they're not putting it on their schedule.
All right, we're going to stop right there. So donkey award to Jeff, all right? Because he had his pick in. You had Fergie, had his pick in.
Well,
before the show started, our late model expert, Jeff, right? Absolute cock block on his part. Literally, I'm just disappointed. He's like, oh, he sends on the picture, Fergie's not going. So now you went ahead and took Madden.
Well, the story behind that is Fergie was the only driver where I could find that race on his schedule. So it's like, I'm going to at least pick a driver that I know is going to be there. And then he posts later he's not going to be there. Madden does not have it on his schedule, so I don't even know if he's going to be there.
I saw Overton in the ad on their Facebook page, and I'm like, well, if he's on the ad, probably. But Bert, I'm gonna let one out of the bag. Remember when I said, hey, let's bet dinner on that deal?
Yeah, I read the posts afterwards. I didn't realize JD wasn't even going to be at that race.
Puka, I slow played him. You weren't on that show. I said,
no, I heard
you want to take that bet? He's like, I'll take that bet. And I knew way beforehand that he wasn't even going to that race, and then it rained out anyway. And then Jeff right here, he messed it up for us. So what the heck? So it'll be interesting. 3 big races this weekend. I expect some pretty good car comps down there. There ain't much else going on.
Well, what do you think as a racer, Ryan? Is the $1 million in his head? I mean, you've been in this situation where it's titles, championships, that kind of stuff.
For some people, it would be, but man, he seems so grounded, right? You know, I mean, he seems so level-headed that I think he's so laser focused on winning each individual race. I don't think so. Now, if he was a little closer to $1 million, right? That 100, he's still over 100,000 away. If he was a little closer, maybe. But I just don't know. It's probably a lot bigger deal to us than it is him, right? Us on the outside going, man, he could hit $1 million. He's like, I just want to win the next race, get a check, like whatever, you know. So, you know, when he looks back, right? When he looks back, when his career's done or down the road, it'll be a pretty cool deal if he actually hits it. But right now, I don't know if that's something he set out. You know, well, if he gets a little closer, I can guarantee it'll be on his radar, and he's probably thought about it. But it's probably a bigger deal to us as the fans than it is to him, I think. So now, World of Outlaw Sprint Cars, they had their, I guess we'll call it their last weekend before the World Finals, of course. They had a pair of races, Lawton, Oklahoma. Then they were down at Devil's Bowl. And did either one of you get to see some World of Outlaw buggy action?
I watched the highlights of both nights. So, once again, I mean, really good racing. Not as close as what some of the previous races have been. But, I mean, I think that since this is the World of Outlaw Sprint Car Series just announced their schedule, and I just found out Beaver Dam's going to have 2 nights of Outlaws next year. So mark it on the calendar. I think I'm going to go to World of Outlaw Sprint Car Race next summer.
Boy, he's going to be proud of you. So night one down at Lawton, Carson Macedo put an absolute hurting on him. He over 5 seconds, 5.5 seconds. He just absolutely dominated. He's been pretty tough over the last month. He's been clicking some off. And then Logan Schuhart, 3rd straight win at Devil's Bowl, and actually tied 30 wins with his grandpa, who's Bobby Allen, right? So that's kind of a cool deal. And we were kind of hoping, I was hoping anyway, nothing, no ill will, but I was hoping Brad Sweet was going to get a pair of DNFs this weekend and close the gap up, but he did not, and he clinched, I believe it's his 3rd World of Outlaws NOS Energy Drink Sprint Car title. So congratulations to the Big Cat. And then, man, a couple side notes here on the sprint car action. What a great second half of the year for the 10-time champ, Donnie Schatz. I mean, beginning of the year, he was there, but he found something in that program, and I believe their average finish over like the last 2 months is like 4th. I mean, that's extremely solid.
I think he's got the best average finish in the second half, actually.
I do, and I don't think it's close either. I think it's significantly, I think there's a few cars in between there. The question I have for you guys, okay, coming down to the final weekend of the year, I'm not sure if he'll be at the Prelude there at Cherokee, but of course he's going to be in Charlotte, and I think he has the most wins. I don't have it in front of me how many, but it's by a lot. He by a landslide has more wins than anybody else at the World Finals. Will he win one of the 2 nights down there in Charlotte?
I have picked him to win the first night down there.
Okay, so he's going to win the second night. Yeah. Fair enough, Puka.
Yeah, I've got him down to win one of the nights down there too. I think so. It's time. Like I said, you know, and he even said that Ford program. So that they got it. You know, what does he got? 2. He only has 2 wins this year. He had the one when he got the 300, was that in Davenport, Iowa, somewhere in Iowa, or Dubuque, Iowa, something like that. And then of course in Fargo, where he had the big jump start, it jumped the field big time on that restart. But you know, one real popular win, you know, in his hometown. What do you think? You got him on your radar this weekend?
I do. In fact, I have him and Brad Sweet winning respectively. I think Sweet winning night 1, Schatz winning night 2. I think the cream's going to rise to the top. There's some heavy hitters, Macedo, Gravel, and all them guys. But I just feel like he's going to end the season on a big note and get it done down there in Charlotte. Now, a little side note there also on the World of Outlaws. We talked about the schedule a little bit, but one of the young guns, and there's quite a few of them, Parker Price Miller, he will be at the World Finals, 23 years old. So he's been battling, from what I understand, kind of like an ankle injury. He had some bone spurs or whatever. And upon looking, he had a growth, a tumor down there. It was cancerous. So he's actually going in for radiation following the World Finals. So, kind of give our thoughts there to Parker Price Miller. Hopefully gets through that quickly and he can be back in action to start the 2022 season. Now, modified.
I got a little something for you on the sprint here. And first off, one thing we didn't talk about was kind of quietly, Aaron Reitzel led some laps on Friday night at Lawton. It was like, here he is, he's back. So the suspension's over. Was it a $10,000 or $20,000 fine had to be paid? So everything's kind of gone away. So we'll be interested to see if we see Aaron Reitzel, back with the World of Outlaw Sprint Cars next year. But just a couple of, 44 years ago, the first World of Outlaw Sprint Car race at Devil's Bowl right there outside of Dallas. So that's one tip. And then I did hear this. So like I said, 44 years of the World of Outlaws. Brad Sweet joins only 10. Well, he's already there, but there's only been 10 drivers that have won titles. And now there's 4 drivers that have won at least 3. Sweet, Kinzer, Swindell, and Schatz. So think about that. 44 years of the series, and only 10 drivers have won. So that goes right to that 80-20 rule. Right. We're doing our picks. We probably need to be thinking more of that. But, that's kind of incredible. I was a bit surprised. Are you guys surprised? Only 10,
Well,
10
people. How many Kinzer have? 17 or something like that?
I got a ton of them.
And Schatz, of course, has 10, right? So between them two, there's over half of them right there, or roughly half of them. So actually, yeah, way over half of them, actually. So that's just on 2 drivers alone. So you said the other one was Sweet. Who's the other one?
Sweet. Sammy.
Yeah. How many does Sammy have? Does he have 3 or 4?
I'm trying to look here quick to see. That was one thing I should have gotten, but it's
and man, what a career he had, but just overshadowed by the king of the Outlaws. I mean,
right?
There just, quite frankly, is not another Steve Kinzer. There just is not. I mean, his dominance over such a long period of time, I don't think that'll be replicated.
Yeah, 20 WU championships with 690 A feature wins.
20 of them for Steve Kinzer.
He doubled up shots.
Unbelievable. So yeah, that's some pretty cool stats right there. Now, what do you say we get into some mod stuff, because they had the final weekend. It was supposed to be championship weekend for the USMTS Modified Series, and if you guys remember, $70,000 to the winner this year, right? So big payday to the winner. 3 of 4 rained out. Now, my lock of the week, my sure bet is Jake O'Neill's winning 2 of 4. Well, Mother Nature got 3. That did not happen. But he did win the one race that happened, right? And he started 13th. So Jake O'Neill, I figured he was going to be tough, and he was. And he drove right up to the front, got it done. TP, Terry Phillips, he actually got the lead, and O'Neill just drove by him. B-Shep, guys, was there. I'm not sure if you saw that. He remember, he won a pair of them last year to end the season, a pair of USMTS mod races. And he actually races for Ramirez when he's driving that car. And, of course, Derek Ramirez was crowned champion of the USMTS Modified Series, $70,000, and it was locked up before they weighed in because he had such a big lead that they would have had to run 2-3 nights. The only guy that had a shot if they raced Friday and Saturday was Jake O'Neill, and once Friday rained out, they must have been drinking a whole lot of beer, because that's a pretty big deal. Now, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but Derek Ramirez, is that his dad? Is that the same Ramirez that owns Jimmy Owens stuff?
I don't know.
I guess I always thought it was Derek himself.
No, well, his dad's got big oil money.
Okay.
Yeah, oil money.
I thought Derek just, he's a successful racer, successful guy. I just thought what the heck? I'll just have a late model team too.
No, so Ramirez actually, John Tesh from up in Watertown, he actually drove for him for a little while, and it was kind of a full ride, got everything paid for, got a salary, got all that. And then he's like, man, I got a family, I can't do that. That was a few years ago. But here's a little history lesson. I'm sure their cars, well, I guarantee their cars have changed dramatically. But when Ramirez first got into building modifieds, they bought all of their stuff from Willie Kraft. So the Kraft modifieds, they sold all their stuff to Ramirez, and that's kind of how they kind of got some jigs and stuff going. I found that kind of interesting for you late model guys there in the room. So
Sure.
So
Well,
with
yeah,
that,
everybody goes and put in the comments there about the Ramirez because, like I said, that's who I always thought it was.
yeah, I'm not sure, and I feel like it probably is, but I don't really know. So yeah, if somebody knows if that same Ramirez family owns Jimmy Owen stuff, that'd be interesting to hear. But congratulations to him. So what do you say we get into some who's hot and who's not? Puka, brought to you by.
Yes, our friends over at Blue Line Brews, they are still here, and a couple of updates here. So, of course, 10% of their profits go back to officers who have either been injured or their families if they've been fallen in the line of duties. 10% of profits go back. But Justice is here. I kept teasing that Justice is coming. So the Justice blend, a little bit of a lighter blend, is out. You can go right down in the show notes here, bluelinebrews.com. It is, like I said, white out here in northern Minnesota. It's getting to be that time of the year for coffee. So you want a hot brew with a good cause, support the One to Go show, jump to bluelinebrews.com. And also now they've got the subscription service started. So for as low as $14.99 on a monthly basis, get your stuff entered. They'll ship you the coffee, whether ground beans, whole beans, every single month. So you don't have to worry about it, just automatic. So bluelinebrews.com, like I said, been a great partner for us. And coffee, it's like I said, it's that time of the year for hot coffee every morning.
Yeah, you definitely need something warm to drink for sure. So, obviously, during the season, we each kind of had 3 who's hot, 3 who's not, but there's just not that much racing going on right now. So, Bert, we're going to start with you. Who do you got? Who's hot?
Well, you have to put Brandon Overton at another $20,000 for his win over the weekend. So he continues to be on my who's hot list.
Yeah, and I'm just going to kind of elaborate on that because that was my guy, and I don't need to reiterate it twice. But just looking at this, he's got 11 wins, Bert, over 20 grand this year. 11 of them over 20. 23 of his last 24 shows, top 4, and the other one was 6th. I mean, that's like Shane Sobraski numbers right there, right, in the Superstock. And then 29 wins in 78 starts. I mean, he's put together a hell of a season for sure. $858,000 in earnings. Unbelievable the season Brandon Overton's put together. Puka, who do you got?
Well, how about Dennis Erb? After the Why Not, was it the Why Not 100 last weekend? Was it the one, or just the Why Not? I can't remember if it was 100 or what.
It was a fall classic down at Why Not Speedway.
Oh, is that what? Okay, so he went there, and then a second place, runner up to Overton, which is, like you said, after giving those stats, just as good as a win if you runner up to Overton. Having a really good fall. How about you? Who you got? Oh, you already got it.
I had Overton, so we kind of talked about him. So let's just get into who's not. Bert, who do you got? Who's not?
All right, this is where my tough grading comes in. He was on my not hot list last week, and even though he clinched a championship, he's staying on the list. He won the championship, but I don't even remember the last time he won. I keep picking him week after week after week, and he gets me no victories.
Bert, are you copying my notes? You sitting behind me in class, right? Because I'll just skip ahead of Puka here. Brad Sweet, yes, he clinched the championship, but only two of his last 10 have even been on the podium. Okay, 2 of his last 10. Only 2 wins in his last 30 starts. 2 of 30, and he's the champ. Unbelievable, right? Obviously he had a great first part of the season, but the second half of the season has been abysmal, right? So and here's a question I got. So 14 race winless streak, okay? He ain't won in 14 starts. But I got a question for both of you guys on Brad Sweet. A drought like this, right? I mean, he's got to be disappointed. Yeah, part of you is elated. You just won another World of Outlaws championship. But the other part's going like, we kind of suck. Like, what's going on? Like, we're not fast. Do you think that feeling inside, that competitive spirit is kind of eating at him a little bit? Because this guy right here, I'm sporting my Dave Dulciak love right here. He won the championship in a street stock at Sycamore, and he was beside himself. He goes, I don't want to win without winning a race, right? And that's just a local level. And he finally won the last night. Brad Sweet, 2 of his last 30. Do you think he's elated about winning the championship, or do you think he's disappointed about how they've been performing? And how can this momentum in a negative way roll into the 2022 season?
Yeah, I think that is exactly what's going to happen. I would not put my money on Brad Sweet to win a fourth title in a row at this point. I was just in Las Vegas with their odds on the Woo Sprints. I would have not put them on him. Yeah, definitely. Like I said, second half, not hot. I can see struggle bus, maybe not. I mean, he did go from 8th to 4th on Friday night there in Lawton. So he stayed consistent, but as we saw, gravel did, kind of reel him in here over the last couple of months. But it just goes show, like I said, fantastic 3 in a row, but to do 20 like Kinzer or to do 10 like Schatz, I would say, like I said, if there was a betting market, I don't know if Sweet would be, your best odds heading into 2022. What do you think, Bert?
Well, I mean, I'm sure he's happy to have clinch the championship. Anybody will be happy to clinch a championship, but I'm sure it is eating at him that he hasn't had a very good second half to the season. I guess one thing this does prove is that, the races early in the season are just as important as the races late in the season. So, you have to do your best in every single race that you race in. But I mean, as disappointed as he probably is that he's not doing very well, I think gravel has to be pretty disappointed too that he wasn't able to take advantage of Sweet having a poor second half of the season and close the deal and at least take the points to the final weekend of the season.
Yeah, when the door opens, right, you got to take it. So the door opened for gravel. His crew chief should have walked around the backside and kicked his ass through the door instead of just going, "Oh, don't go in there!" Right? That door was wide open. You're right. He didn't capitalize. Puka.
I got a couple of comments I just thought of. So remember, he was leading the Kings Royal Blue Attire in that day race. But what happened right around that time? So, well, let's back up. Who does Brad Sweet race for?
Casey Kane, right?
Okay. Around that time, around Kings Royal, who gets fired? Aaron Reitzel. Who fills the seat? Casey Kane in that 83 car. I don't know. Was it a distraction having him at the track? Did he feel more pressure because Casey Kane was around? Was he spending more energy trying to get Casey? Because Casey didn't run well at all in that 83 car. He was garbage. So I just thought of it as we're talking here. I don't know. You know what I mean? Is he the kind of guy who just didn't really want him around? He kind of, wants to do his own thing. But that was about the same time that he really cooled off.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So another question I have is, we talked about Schatz early in the year. We're like, this dude ain't going to win anymore. He's just not even competitive. Like he was not good early. And next thing you know, he's got the highest averaging finishing position, not all the wins, but he's like there every single night. He's trending up. Sweet's trending down. 2022, if you had to make a bold prediction right now, who's going to finish higher in points, Schatz or Sweet?
This sounds like a would you rather.
Right?
I'd rather Schatz. How about you, Bert?
I'd rather see Schatz finish higher, yes.
And I feel like he's gonna. I really do. They found something. And remember, they talked about, that was a developmental program, that motor program, right? And they said, man, we've been having struggles, but they kind of had a feeling once we figure this deal out, look out, we're not like going away. We're fast. We just got to figure this engine stuff out. I feel like they've done that. And I think they really got to be licking their chops for the 2022 season.
Well, and it wasn't just us. Look at Kerry Madsen over the last 6 weeks. He's had some really good runs too. And he was leading, didn't he lead most of the laps last week? And they had that single, was that last week where they had that single night? And he led a lot of laps. And then, I think, was it Macedo that got around him? But, the Madman's had, some decent runs too, because he's not running every night either. He's spotty in and out, but he's had some good runs too, and he's got that same motor program.
So you mentioned you were at Vegas. What were you doing there?
Hockey ball.
Winner, chicken dinner?
Winner, chicken dinner. A bunch of Iron Range plugs showed up, and it was exhausting to say the least, trying to run around with 30-year-olds, not just on the rink, but off the rink. But we brought the hardware home, and luckily, one of the guys, his parents were on a motorhome trip, so they were in the area. We got this plaque, and I'm not kidding. This plaque was 30, 40 pounds. And you know what it is these days at the airlines? You got to check, you're over a certain weight, you got to check another bag. Someone had to pay another baggage fee, so thank God we were able to throw that in his motorhome. But and speaking of Coach Krause, I was playing with a guy from Alex who knows Coach Krause. He was the only guy from that was there. But no, we had a really good time, and I wanted to actually buzz out to the track, but there was some big festival going on out there. I've been through there, but I've never been able to really walk the grounds. I was going to see if I could get out there, but there was some rock festival or something going on out there, so I stayed away. But yeah, good time, good weather. It was great.
And you took home the win. And you're the old guy on the team, right? I'm thinking the movie Slapshot. I remember the name. It was Paul Newman was the coach. Were you channeling your inner Paul Newman, like the coach player, the old guy on the bench? Is that you?
Oh, for sure. I was channeling like just breathe deep, and if your heart feels like it's giving out, it probably is. Press the panic button and get the paramedics over.
So you talked about, we had Halloween this weekend, right? You mentioned before the show you gave away a whole bunch of candy. I was over at Dave Dulciak's. He had his championship party yesterday. Nice. Kids went trick-or-treating, and they had kids over. But let's do a little trick-or-treat. You mentioned let's kind of a pretty neat deal. Why don't you go ahead and roll with that?
Yeah, we'll play a little game of trick-or-treat here. So what we're talking about here, I'm going to name some racers for the gentleman here, and if it's a treat, was such a sweet season, or was it a trick? Was it just a one-off, and you shouldn't expect things to be a little bit different in 2022? So we will start with you, Ryan Ayo. Dustin Strand, his 21 season, trick or treat?
Man, it was definitely, if it was a treat, it was one of those with like bad camp, right? It was definitely a trick. Extremely disappointing. Kind of one of those deals. He was wearing his Halloween costume all year and probably had nightmares. He will have nightmares about the season. Extremely talented, one of the best drivers in Wissota in all classes, but not one of the season he wants to remember. So I believe it's a trick because it's not going to be the same thing in 2022. He'll be back right back in front where he belongs.
Bert Lehman, trick or treat, Scott Bloomquist.
It was a trick. Basically, his seasons have been a trick ever since he was in that motorcycle accident, unfortunately. And I don't know if we're ever going to get a treat season again from him.
You're right. Yes. All right. You got more? Or you're all right.
No, that's good.
All right, Ryan Eel, trick or treat, Parker Anderson.
That's a treat. That's a treat because he had a season that was phenomenal. One for the record books, all those wins, won the 100 national championship, 10 Steffes Street Stock Tour wins, won the Steffes Street Stock Tour title. But that's his final year. That was a treat season because he's not going to dominate that way when he moves up to the open wheel stuff. Things are going to get a little tougher. Talented driver, but I don't think I would expect a season like that for him again in 2022 with the change that he's making.
Bert Jimmy Owens, trick or treat?
I'm gonna say trick because I think he got off to a very slow start this season, and I think next year he's gonna have a much better season next year than he had this year.
All right, guy that aforementioned here, we've just been talking a lot about him tonight. Ryan Aho, Donnie Schatz, trick or treat?
Oh boy, I don't know. So a treat means that it's going to continue. A trick means that it's not going to be the same in 2022. I'm going to go with treat because if you had asked this question the first half of the year, right, it would have been like, I don't really know. But now he's trending forward. He's carrying momentum. I believe it's going to be a treat because what you're seeing right now from the Shocks team, I believe you're going to see a whole lot more of that. They got good things to come in 2022.
All right, and our final one, Bert Lehman, Benji Lacrosse.
Treat. He had an unbelievable season, and I don't know if next year he's going to be able to win $90,000 again like he has this year, but I still expect many big victories from him and a lot of wins. So I would expect it to continue into next season.
Absolutely. So our picks, we're kind of doing little pick-ems kind of right now. So our picks from last week kind of closed the gap up a little bit. All of us except for Keith had Brandon Overton to win, right, at the National 100. So we all gained one except for him. At Lawton, who won at Lawton, Bert? Do you remember? Oh yeah, Carson Macedo. And Pete and myself had him. That's right. That's right. Back on top where I belong. So we are all tied up. We're back at 31 apiece. We're tied back up. Jeff's at 21. Pete and Puka are at 17. Keith's at 13. And this week, we have 6 races that we're going to be picking. Of course, tonight, Tuesday night, is going to be the prelude to the finals over at Cherokee, sprints and late models. It's non-sanctioned. It's just kind of something to kind of bring them in. And then over at Charlotte, the World Finals, we're going to pick the World of Outlaw sprints and the World of Outlaw late models both nights. So we got 6 races to choose from. And, man, I tell you what, let me ask you this. The sure bet of the week, okay? We have our picks in place. I posted them here on the screen for people to see. But our lock of the week, our sure bet. Now, before we get into that, guys, the sure bet, I have one sure bet. A sure bet, if you're looking to sell real estate, if you're looking to sell your home, sell some commercial property, sell some land, Real Estate by Jay Schmidt. That's a lock of the week, right? This guy's been in business for 20 years already. I've been part of the racing community. If you're watching this show, you're a race fan. Why would you not want somebody from the racing community selling your home or your real estate for you? Get a hold of him. He sells all across the whole state of South Dakota. Like I said, residential stuff, commercial, land, you name it. And get a hold of Jay. He'll take good care of you. So that's my first lock of the week. But Bert, who do you have?
Lock of the week, Donnie Schatz will win a race at Charlotte. I have him winning the first night.
That's a good lock. That's a good lock. Puka?
I've also got Schatz in Charlotte. Double up that, baby.
I'm going to go with big, sexy Brandon Overton to win at Cherokee, the prelude to the finals. I'm going to knock on wood right here. Just knock. I think he's going to be there. I'm pretty sure he's going to be there, but that's my pick to get her done. And that's tonight, actually, Tuesday night over at Cherokee. So you'll have to check that one out. So let's get into the last lap, guys. Brought to you by Zuli's Race Engines. You know, what a season they put together. You know, we got national championships and track championships under the belt on the Steffes Tour. I mean, this is the time of year. Number one, order your new engine, right? No matter what class you're in, he can take good care of you. But if you have an engine you feel just needs refreshed, get a hold of Frank, get it to him now. Do him a favor. Don't be waiting until March going, I need it for the middle of April. That's just not a good deal. Get it to him now. He'll take good care of you. I want to thank Frank, of course, over at Zuli's Race Engines for continuing to support the show and support him and pay back a favor there. So let's start with a little NASCAR action. So Bert shot us a text message here. And what in the world? Did you see that deal with Denny Hamlin? What happened there?
Yeah, Denny Hamlin went all Tyler Erb yesterday after the NASCAR race. I mean, that was actually the first thing that I thought of. And but yes, Alex Bowman spun out Hamlin while Hamlin was leading, and at the time Hamlin was up by 31 points for making the finals, and he wound up making the finals by 8 points. So I mean, it could have been very bad. But yeah, then anyway, after Bowman went on to win the race, and then after the race, you know, the winners always do their donuts and stuff on the front stretch. Denny Hamlin came zooming in and kind of slanted his car in front of Bowman, and Bowman kind of took off and spun around, and then Hamlin pulled up and kind of went nose to nose, just like Tyler Erb did at Cedar Lake. And they were playing the audio from the crew chief for Denny Hamlin. He said, think big picture here, don't do anything stupid. And then he drove away. Because, I mean, you know, if he would have done something stupid, you know, he did qualify for one of the final 4 drivers for next week. But we had talked about this last week about how it's stupid to have a champion determined by who finishes the best in one race. I mean, what if this would have happened next week? You know, when you have a non-contending driver for the championship spin out a driver who's in contention for the
I think Bert kind of locked up there. So what he's saying, yeah, what would it be like to have somebody, he's probably got his phone ringing is what he's got. he got muted, right? NASCAR, they're getting soft.
And that's why I just don't like
it. So Bert, stop for a second there because you paused. I think there's something going on with woke. You got the woke NASCAR deal. See how they muted him, right? He's talking smack about NASCAR. They shut him right up. Did you see that? Like,
you paused for a second.
We better watch our backs. I'm a little nervous, right? Like, you're looking at your emails. I don't know. I'm just saying. So no, we lost.
Yeah, no, my screen. You guys froze up on me. I was talking, and you guys froze up on me, so I didn't know what was going on. So yeah, maybe it is NASCAR. I got to get the tin hat or something.
No, and exactly like Bert was saying. I mean, if this comes down to the last night, I hate that whole championship format because a champion in racing is crowned over what they do over the duration of the season, right? It always has been. And coming down to, if you get taken out on the final night by some jackwagon that's not even in the points, man, I tell you what, we might see one of the bigger brawls that we've seen in NASCAR. Maybe is that good or bad for the sport? That kind of controversy. What do you think?
Well, the controversy is good, but this whole chase is. I mean, when they started the chase to now, the ratings have gone like this. The crowds have gone this way. It really hasn't worked. I mean, there's nothing wrong with rewarding somebody who's consistent and does a great job. And there's, I mean, it's Martinsville. There should be excitement anyway. You know what I mean? I mean, they're going to Phoenix next week, and there's got to be excitement. Those are good tracks. So, like I said, I just the whole chase thing it's lost on me.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in just a second here. So, down in Charlotte, speaking of NASCAR country, down in Charlotte, they had I don't know what they called it though. They had basically Dirt Car Series had like a world championship down there for everything, literally everything except for late models. I think they had like 38 classes or some crazy thing. But a side note, Tyler Cater made the trip down there, one of the young guns from Wissota country. I think I feel like he's 18-ish, somewhere in that. Somebody can correct me on that. But pretty good wheel, man. He's won some races in Wissota country. He made the trip down there. Kind of fun to watch. I'm like, Tyler Cater's going to Charlotte. I was baffled by it, right? So, it sounds like he's going to Florida, too. I talked to him, and he ran a US MTS motor, which, to be honest with you, about 150 horse short from them UMP motors. But it sounds like they got a UMP engine coming, and they're going to go to Speed Week. So, kind of cool. Give us somebody to follow. And that leads me to this, right? So, the fan question of the week brought to you by Cowboy Up Racing, Shane Howell. Follow Cowboy Up Racing on Facebook, social media. Now, when a racer, either one of you can answer this. Maybe Bert, you can go first. Puka, you can go second. When a racer from your area, okay, travels to a different area, they go south, they go to Florida, they go to Arizona, wherever. They go somewhere completely out of the area, and you're either there watching or watching online. Do you find yourself just automatically cheering for that person because they are from your area, even though sometimes that person is somebody like, I don't even like that person, right? Because I've seen a lot of them, like, when they're at home, like, I can't stand this person. Like, I hope they crash every night. I don't even like this person. But then all of a sudden they go, like, down to Florida, down to Charlotte or whatever, and you're like, that's our guy. That's our guy. We're cheering for that guy. You ever find yourself doing that?
Yeah, I mean, when I'm watching a race in a different area and there's a local driver that I know, I mean, even if I don't necessarily like them, I cheer for them because I want them to represent the racing from our area in a prove to the other drivers that drivers from our area can compete with them. So,
all right.
As an example, I mean, last year it was in the spring, wasn't it, when Buzzy won down in Florida, and I was watching that race, and I was just cheering for him like crazy because I mean, first of all, it was an exciting race, but I mean, he was from our area, so I wanted him to win.
So you're saying you don't like Buzzy otherwise?
No, I don't even know Buzzy.
Just kidding. So Puka, how about you? You ever? I mean, we've had a lot of guys from our area head down to either Arizona or Florida and all that. Do you automatically cheer for our guys?
Oh, absolutely. And this is a great place for all of you to comment too out there. Throw a comment on what your thoughts are. But, oh, yeah, totally. I mean, and it was even just a smaller version of this when the Wissota 100 was at Cedar, when it was kind of like the only 100 and they had the Western one way out there. But yeah, I mean, you'd see the local guy, and you're always, even the Cedar Lake opener, when they started doing that double format, there were a lot of cars down there, and in the late 90s. And oh yeah, you're always cheering for the guy at home. And like when we started going out west, several years ago, and Shaw and stuff, like you said, and at the Wild West shootout, Rick Auckland down in Florida in the mid 2000s. Yeah, totally. It was always great to see the guys from the area, and like, not so much that you didn't like them, but maybe you didn't really cheer for them. Maybe you're just neutral on a person, but all of a sudden they obviously would stand out to you. You want them to rock it.
So let's transition to that to sports, because my dad, I love him to death, but sometimes he makes me shake my head. Okay. So let's face it, I'm a Vikings fan, and it's painful sometimes to be a Viking fan. Right? You got Bert with that god-awful looking shirt on. I think it's just hideous, right? Just hideous, okay? We have a dress code. We should have a dress code for this. We need to start looking a little bit more professional, okay? But I can't tell you how many times you get into playoffs, whether it's baseball or football or whatever, and the Vikings, of course, they get knocked out, they ain't in it. The Packers are still in it. Well, they're from the NFC North. I'm cheering for them. They represent the North. I'm like, that is literally the dumbest shit I've ever heard in my entire life. Like, I hate the Packers. I want to see Aaron Rodgers get knocked out of the game in the first play. Like, he can break his ankle in practice. I don't care. I ain't cheering for them. You kidding me? There's no way, right? So it's kind of on racing, it seems a little different. Now, I'll be honest, if you're bitter rivals with somebody, which you guys don't race, but there's certain people where, like, you're rivals with. It's like, I ain't cheering for them. Screw them. Like, I don't want to. Now, if it's somebody you're impartial to, you kind of have that little bit, hey, I want to see our guys do good or our gals do good, but I've never felt that way. Like, and maybe it's different because I competed, right? But, man, I just could not cheer for them, even like back in hockey, Puka, right? So, we were out our senior year there. Your brother was on the team. You were a traitor, went to Hibbing. Still pissed off about that, by the way. We actually lost to Greenway in the championship game. I was not cheering for Greenway to win the state championship. I'm like, I hate Greenway. I still hate Greenway 20 years later. Like, I want nothing to do 25 years later. Like, I don't want to see Greenway win. They broke our hearts. Kidding me? Not a chance. They ain't cheered for them. That's how it is for me in racing. Like, I cheer for, if I'm impartial on the person or whatever, I'll cheer all day long. I want to see him do good. But, man, I that's not going to, for me personally, that's not turning a rival into somebody going, that's our guy. No, that ain't happening.
And I'll agree with you that sports is different than racing, because you brought up the football. Because I wasn't disappointed when Gary Anderson missed that field goal. I wasn't disappointed when Brett Favre threw that interception.
well, and Ryan, though, I find myself doing that for like state hockey. Obviously, a big thing in Minnesota high school hockey tournament. But yeah, I mean, especially if it's a team from way up north here, I always find myself kind of rooting for them. But yeah, like I said, yeah, I guess I can see your point. Racing, maybe if it's more of that racing community, but yeah, maybe some of the other sports, it doesn't always spill over.
Well, for my dad, it did, right? My dad's like, well, I'll cheer for them. They're in the NFC North. I'm like, no, not doing that. So a little bit of sad news in the racing world. The 2002 Wissota Midwest Mod National Champion, Neil Eckert, literally, I think he was in his early 50s, maybe 53, 54, somewhere in that neighborhood. Somebody can correct me. Tragically lost his life over this past week. Not 100% sure on the details, but it sounds like it was a pretty big surprise. It was just kind of an unexpected deal. And he raced down at Deer Creek, southern Minnesota, Deer Creek, Lansing, Casson. I ran against him in the Supers. Did not have the liberty of really knowing him. I mean, probably talked to him a couple times in my career, but it sounded like, he's one of the popular guys. A lot of people liked him down there. And I believe, and I could be wrong on this, but I was looking through the past champions quickly, and Doug Dinger, he's a former late model national champ. He lost his life several years ago. And, of course, the late John Seitz, he was a national champion in the Supers, tragically lost his life. And I believe, and I could be wrong, but I think he might be only the third Wissota national champion that we've lost. So pretty big hit in the Wissota racing world, southern Minnesota. we want to give our thoughts and prayers, of course, to friends, family, racers, everybody that knows Neil Eckert down there. Now, get back to a little positive note. We were talking about the World of Outlaws a little bit ago, right? And they made an announcement right before we got on the show, and they kind of released their schedule, and they revamped the point fund. So get this, okay? It's a $1 million point fund for the World of Outlaw NOS Energy Drink Sprint Cars. First place is going to pay $200,000 to win. Last year or this year, $150,000. That's a $50,000 increase. Second is going to be $100,000. This year was $75,000. Third is $75,000. This year was $55,000. And just skipping down to 10th, it's going to be $50,000 for 10th.
Wow.
For 10th. It was $30,000 this year. So they're putting some real money in an already highly competitive, kind of a stacked field every night. I'm pretty excited about that. So number one is, do you think that's going to attract a few more followers and make a good product even better? And what if anything, what stuck out to you guys on the schedule?
Well, I know Bert said Beaver Dam stuck out to him. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just took a quick look at it. There are 3 tracks in Wisconsin that will be hosting World of Outlaw races: Cedar Lake, Beaver Dam, and Wilmot. And I believe there's going to be 5 races total between those 3 tracks. But yeah, Beaver Dam is having a doubleheader, a Friday night, Saturday night show. Normally they only run Saturday night. So, that's a huge commitment to take on 2 nights of racing from that organization. And like I said, I've watched more Outlaws this year, so I'm going to try to make it to one of those Beaver Dam shows.
Well,
how many Minnesota shows are on there?
Well, I didn't really get a chance to look. Is Granite City on there? That was one of the only ones, right?
Jackson, of course. They got the Jackson Nationals, but I did not. And I'm surprised. Now, the car count was light at Granite City, right? St. Cloud area there. But the crowd was full. They had a full grandstands, and actually the racing was good. They farmed it up. They had a top and bottom. I'm surprised not to see them. And it's early yet. Maybe they'll kind of fill in a couple spots. I'm not sure. But I was surprised not to see them on there. So what else?
Well, like I said, I didn't really get a chance to look at it, but I just want to, give a tip of hat to Dirt Car. They've made some improvements on the World of Outlaw side. Now they're putting some big money behind the World of Outlaw sprint cars. It just shows that the sport's in a pretty good place, a pretty healthy spot. I'm assuming NOS is back on. I haven't heard any news as far as NOS Energy. If they're out in, they must be in. I don't know how many years they got left on that deal. But it's nice to see that, that 10th place car kind of get respect. Sometimes that could be like your Jacob Allen this year. I don't even know who 10th is. I'm just kind of throwing out a name, but a guy that's been loyal. They're up, they're not up and down the road any less. And like last week, and not this past week, the weekend before, they go all the way down to Lakeside on one show. These guys are spread all over the country. To me, that's a little bit wacko, but if you're in the points, you got to do it. So it's just kind of nice to see them stacking. And maybe we'll talk about that in a future episode, because there's been a lot of talk. We're going to get into this whole, Lucas's schedule and all this big money. We're going to talk more about that XR throwing out all that money. And, because there are arguments out there like, well, is it only going to help 2, 3, 5, 10 teams, or is it going to daisy chain where, okay, there's a big 50,000 race here, so everyone goes there. So then all of a sudden the 15 or 10 or $20,000 regional show, well, that opens it up for that guy. And then maybe a last thing we'll talk about at some point later is what the hell is a $10,000 show anymore? You know what I mean? So we're going to get into all that later on down the line in the off season here. But anyway, kudos to Dirt Car and for what you're doing. Like I said, it looks like you're heading in the right direction.
Yeah, I agree totally. I'm excited for the season already. Of course, the finale coming up. But let's talk about the finale. Let's get into our must-see events of this upcoming weekend. Let's be honest, there's just not a lot to choose from, right? So, of course, Puka, our must-see events brought to you by.
Yeah, RV share. So if you got an RV, like up here in northern Minnesota, as a matter of fact, hunting coming up, the rifle opener this weekend for deer hunting. So everyone that's going to be out there doing that, be safe. Have fun and bag your buck. But if you're looking, maybe obviously this weekend's a little too tight on time, but next week or the third weekend there, if you want an RV share, go down to the link in the show notes. It'll jump you over there. You can rent an RV, and if it's winter time and you pulled the trailer in from the lake or wherever, and you want to make a little bit of money on it, You can also put your RV up for rent at RV Share. And like I said, generate a little bit of income on that thing if somebody wants to bag that thing for a trip down south or something like that. So RV Share works both ways. You can rent and get a little income from your existing RV.
Awesome. So there's not a lot to choose from. So I'll just let you start, and then we'll just say if that's the same ones that we have, because it might be. But Bert, what shows are you looking forward to this weekend?
Actually, the one I'm looking forward to the most, and it's asphalt, but there's a dirt connection. I'm looking forward to the NASCAR finale because I want to see if Kyle Larson can close the deal and win this championship in the NASCAR series.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because I have that on my list as well. And it comes down to that, right? It's the last race. He had the most wins of the season. I mean, the kid's incredible. I mean, he's won in everything this year. I mean, it's something we're not probably going to see again, right? I mean, what he's done behind the wheel of multiple types of race cars is incredible. And I'm with you. I have that on there, and I haven't had a NASCAR race on my must-see events of the week never, right? But coming into it at Phoenix, man, he's a dirt guy. He's our guy, right? I mean, let's be honest. When they booted him out of NASCAR for a year, his fan base went boom, and I mean, it just incredibly grew with what he did. And so what do you think? Right, there's down to 4 drivers. I honestly don't even. I know Hamlin's one of the other ones. I don't know who the other 2 are.
Hamlin, Mark, Truex Jr. and
Chase Elliott.
Chase Elliott, yes.
Okay. Now I'll be honest with you. I don't dislike any of them guys, right? But I find myself I'll probably tune into that race, and probably like both of you, I want to see Young Money get what's rightfully his. Because if he doesn't win it, we'll have a lot to talk about. Then we're going to have to do some math. Would he have won it if we had the old format? I don't know how the overall points would look. Would he be leading it? Would it be locked up if they had the old format? It'd be interesting to kind of take a look back at that. But, man, I'm just going to hope like heck that he gets it done this weekend. Puka, what do you got? What are you looking forward to this week?
Well, I was just looking at it. So that's the last race. So they don't close it off at Homestead anymore, huh?
No, they changed that.
Shows you how much I pay attention to NASCAR.
Right. I didn't know where it was either.
Well, of course, the World Finals. And as I was thinking about the World Finals, I believe the first World Finals was in 2008. It was a big deal. They're going to televise on, was it CBS Sports Network or maybe it was Speed back then, but it was kind of this big thing. And it felt like there was a lot of time between when racing in Wayzata country ended. And then, it was because I remember it was like opening deer hunting one year. We got it at the, up at the shack and everything. And it's hard to believe because it's just been racing. And now it's the World Finals. So, and as much as that's the World Finals, it's nothing final at all. We're going to, there's all this other racing. You got the Gateway. But so anyway, just, the World Finals is kind of, a unique play on words with the way things are these days. But yeah, Charlotte, good setting, good racing town, just good event. The track isn't always the best. It's not like, it's no Fairbury, but I think it is kind of a nice way to kind of wrap up the year and get everybody down there with the mods and everything. And I know people that have been there, and they said the event itself, the aura, everything around there, and then everything you can do in Charlotte, they said it's definitely worth the trip.
So let me ask you, what sticks out to you? I mean, because there's a lot going on this coming weekend. If there's something going, I'm watching that race because...
Okay, 2 things. I'd rather Chris Ferguson than the Rocket One of B-Shep. And I'm also interested to see, just a couple of years ago, Bloomer bagged one of the nights, and he does not have a win. And, can he, he's had flashes of speed. Going to be a little tackier, I'm assuming, just because temps are a little bit cooler. Can Bloomquist finally bag a race here in 2022? How about you?
Bert, how about you? What good, bad, or indifferent? What sticks out to you coming up for the World Finals in Charlotte?
There's really nothing that in particular that I'm looking for other than some good racing and to see if Brandon Overton can continue his quest towards $1 million.
That interesting.
I see what, the X Factor. I forgot about that. Yeah, cheering for our home drivers. Yes, I will be doing that.
Yeah, he's down there in Ricky Lemon's ride, so it'll be really. I know they did a little testing. I'm looking forward to seeing how, it's just a one-off deal, but he's talented. He's one of our best drivers in Wissota racing. I'm excited to see what good old Jesse Glenns can do down there. Another thing that's sticking out to me is there's a guy from our area, another one, Ricky Weiss, right, former multi-time national champ, who's trending up as of late, right? He's had a few podiums. They've done more testing. Could he possibly get the monkey off his back and find himself in victory lane this weekend? Over or under? Yes or no? You think he's going to get it done?
Under.
Yeah, I'll take under. But could he? Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. He definitely is trending up. It seems like they've figured something out. But god dang, that guy has raced so hard all year with terrible qualifying B features. I mean, he deserves a win like crazy. And just one comment on Glenn's too, like you said, one of the top guys in the area, so he's so used to starting 8th every night. He may never come home. He might start 3rd or 4th or time really well, start outside front row. He's not going to do it himself. He said, what the hell am I going to go back to Wisconsin for? I'll be nice and warm here. I'll just sit around here and I don't know, start 8th every night.
That would be kind of cool. So, yeah, you're right. Ricky Weiss, he struggled a lot this year, but he's been trending up as of late. And, man, it would if there's a guy that needs a couple of good runs to close out the season, it's definitely him. Of course, we talked about Donnie Schatz, the second half of the season he's put together. He's trending in the right direction to carry momentum into 2022. Now let's flip this around, right? So we've had so many shows. In Puka, you just kind of segued in a little bit ago with all these 50 grand to win, 100 grand to win. I believe both of these are 12, right? Are they both 12 grand to win?
Yeah, they're not real high paying.
10 or 12. 10 or 12. So it's either 10 or 12. Is it a little bit of a disappointment that they're ending with a pair of shows that are just kind of like their base pay shows rather than ending on a big way? Like Lucas ends at the Dirt Track World Championship for 100 grand to win, right? And then you got the World of Outlaws, and they end with, it's either 10 or 12, and you can look that up, but it's one of the two for sure. Is there a little bit of a disappointing feeling that it ends that way for them?
Yeah, probably. I mean, you always think of the end of the season as, the Super Bowl. In football, it's a Super Bowl, baseball, the World Series, and you always end with your biggest show. And so the end with two 12,000 to win shows is a little disappointing, especially when you compare it to Lucas, like you said.
Yeah, and it looks like it might be 12. I'm not positive on that, but
I'm having trouble finding it too. But like I said, I think when the concept of this thing, and of course the world has changed so much, but I think the big deal was back then in 08, 09, 10 was to get the TV, get them under the lights, get them at a NASCAR type facility and really kind of showcase the product. I don't think it was so much about the racers as it was about trying to generate some interest in the sport, kind of kick off next year at that time. Well, of course, with streaming and everything we got going on, it isn't as relevant anymore. And like I said, they're not even on mainstream television for this thing. They haven't been for several years. But I think, like I said, when it was, conceived, because the lighting in Charlotte's perfect. It's in Charlotte. You've got your racing community. I think the whole thing was kind of centered around that. But yeah, I agree. It's not the biggest pay. But like I said, from a few fans that I know have gone there said the whole environment, the aura at the event, it does feel like a crown jewel, and it is cool. Like I said, with everything having to do with Charlotte and racing.
And
go ahead.
Well, I was just going to add on to what Puka said. I think when this race was originally started, being in Charlotte, which is the heart of NASCAR country, I think that's part of what the shine of this event was supposed to be, was just the fact that you're inside the NASCAR hub, and you're just racing in front of the higher ups in the racing industry. I think that was part of the appeal of this show.
Yeah, it kind of has that Volusia feel, right? Because during speed weeks, you get all the NASCAR teams and a lot of car owners and a lot of people that are big in NASCAR over at Volusia. And, you get some of the guys driving even at Volusia. So that's kind of the draw down there. It's like, man, this is the big money in dirt car racing, and the big money in NASCAR racing is all here. It definitely does have that feeling in Charlotte. Little bit disappointed as a points guy that the points are already decided and everything. So, but that is what it is. That's just kind of the nature of the beast. But needless to say, it should be good. And, the other one that I have on my list I'm looking forward to, not as much as those two, but of course, a new show, the prelude to the World Finals over at Cherokee. I guess really the thing that sticks out to me is who's going to be there, right? Because there's no points, there's no nothing. It'll be interesting to see who shows up. The weather looks good. I did look at the forecast. The weather looks good for that event, but it'll be interesting to see who shows up at that one. So the season it's crazy, right? Because we're there's not as many races, but there's basically races all the way through the end of the year. So, there's something going on, but we don't have like the typical work week where we each have 3 of our own, but we kind of have the same ones we're kind of looking at. So with that said, episode 104 in the book, 105 next week, right? And that's going to be, in the podcast stuff and all that, we're already on season 3. But if you go off of weeks, we're starting season 3 next week. So kind of interesting how that worked itself out there. But man, it's been a pleasure. Any closing thoughts from either one of you guys?
Well, I just found it. Yeah, it's $12,000 to win each night. So, and then Peach State, Vegas next weekend, King of the Sandbox the following weekend, Gobbler 100 the weekend after preceding or following Thanksgiving.
The Cherokee's got the Blue Gray 100 coming up.
Speaking of Cherokee, boy, they've kind of stuck their neck out. They've got the memorial race, the Galt Memorial, really kind of. And then, the World of Outlaw sprint cars there. I don't know if that's a sprint car track normally. I don't know if
that's late model country down there, man. That's late model country.
But they're kind of the Fairbury a little bit of 2021 in a way.
Yeah, they got a lot of big shows for sure. So with that said, Bert, any closing thoughts, or Puka, you want to take us home?
Take us home, Puka.
All right. Well, like I said, Minnesota deer hunting opener to all of you. Be safe out there. You get your deer, but be safe, be smart, nothing foolish. Find us, all 3 of us. You can find us on Facebook at Bert Lehman, at Ryan Aho, at Racer Puka. We do have some swag. Like I said, answer those. Get in the comments. We'll get you a shirt. We'll follow up on you. Whoever has the right answers. Of course, our partners. I always want to thank them. Dirt Track Supply, BuyRaceShirts.com, RV Share, Cowboy Up Racing, Zuli's Race Engines, Blue Line Brews, the One to Go Show at gmail.com. If you want to get a hold of us in private, obviously you can comment. We're on TikTok, we're on Snapchat, Facebook, YouTube. One of our TikToks is up to like 70,000 views. So we are famous. The One to Go Show is famous officially on TikTok, and that's where all the kids are. So, but anyway, like I said, get out there hunting. Be safe. Thanks, guys. 105. We're looking forward to it. Get out there also and be your dream. Most importantly, you're tuned to the One to Go Show.